So guys, today we tested out what is the actual difference if you use or not the CFTs, the conformal fuel tanks on the F-16I SUFA. I did that test on the F-15 as well, back in the day when it was added, and you noticed there that it was actually a pretty big difference. But in the F-16, not so much maybe, right? So let's talk about what tests that we did, how we did it, and then the results, okay? So what were the tests? So I had a control subject, which is the F-16C, just for you to kind of have an idea of the difference between the F-16C and I and everything, okay? So in a general sense, we had that control, and then the SUFA with and without the CFTs at 1,000 meters from 600 kilometers per hour to 1,200 kilometers per hour in time to speed. And then after that, at 8,000 meters from 1,000 kilometers per hour to 2,000 kilometers per hour. By the way, at 1K, I used IAS, indicated airspeed. And at 8K altitude, I did use true airspeed, okay? And also, another thing is that the weight or the fuel were very similar, okay? So basically what I did here is that, of course, when you use the CFTs, you increase the amount of fuel by 14 minutes and something. So I basically increased that to the normal SUFA as well in timing, and basically got the weight basically to the same, so that we can actually see the same amount of weight on the aircraft. So the total weight was 10 kilograms more or less different from one to another. So I could, make sure that it was very, very similar. So including the extra weight of the CFT itself, okay? So it's more looking at the drag than anything else, okay? Because, of course, at the end of the day, you will be able to take the kind of the same amount of fuel. You take 22 millimeters anyway, So I would assume that the CFTs are very light because of that matter. On the F-16C, the control, I just utilized it the same timing, basically, because they use a different engine, right? So fuel consumptions are different and stuff. So I basically went with 22 minutes with the F-16C to see how much it would be, okay? Then the results, guys. So with a CFT, it took 20.8 seconds to go from 600 kilometers per hour to 1,200 kilometers per hour at 1K altitude. This is indicated airspeed, okay? With no CFTs but the same amount of fuel, it took 20.43 seconds. So you see a decrease of more or less 0.4 seconds. Barely, it's not even feelable. The control was 17.43, so you can see that the difference here on the F-16C is much, much higher, just for you to take a look on how little difference it actually makes between the CFT and non-CFT F-16, okay? It's pretty insane, actually, that it's this little. It might vary a little bit more if you take the, a little bit of a different fuel, etc., right? But at the end of the day, this is, including the drag, basically, the extra drag, right? And at 8K, from 1,000 true airspeed to 2,000 true airspeed, with CFTs, we had 1 minute 34 seconds, 0.93. So we had basically a minute and a half and a little bit more to get the CFT F-16 SUFA to those speeds. With no CFTs, we actually got 1 minute 32.59, and in the control, it was 1 minute 04 with the F-16C. So you can see that the F-16C is the difference is a lot bigger than you might think. And the main point here is that do whatever you want. Why is that? Because the CFT, guys, in the F-15, it kind of affected by quite a lot how much performance the F-15 would lose, okay? But in the F-16, the performance is almost barely feelable, okay? So, yeah, there is a difference there. So if you are aiming for dogfights and everything with that, I would assume that, don't take CFTs. So for air realistic, it would be better to not use CFTs. But the difference is so incredibly small that it doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, my opinion is if you're gonna do a longer flight, you know, especially in air to ground, that you have to use the inner pylons of the wings to actually take weapons instead of fuel tanks, then yes, do take the CFTs. Apart from that, use the CFTs when you find it pretty, basically. That's kind of the idea, because there's nothing else that I can say to you guys here. The difference is so incredibly tiny that it doesn't make a lot of difference. So if you wanna, if you want the SUFA to look like a SUFA, use the CFT. That's kind of the idea here. Or if you're gonna do a longer flight in air to ground, that you need those inner pylons to not carry fuel tanks, right? So at the end of the day, this is kind of it. It's kind of up to you. It doesn't matter too much. There is a difference, but it doesn't matter too much, okay? So I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and bye, guys.